Hello everybody, and welcome to Struppey's and Tatz scenario. A lot of people wanted to have a video tutorial on how to play the scenario, how to build the ships together, how to launch the system, how to fly it and how to land it. And that's what we're going to do today here. We're at the downloadable world. I removed all the ships from over there. First of all, we're going to put back on the crosshair here, was just for making it look better. And at first I'm going to show you some parts of the world you need to know. Afterwards we're gonna show all the ships and see how they're built, what they're made of and what's special about them. I'm gonna put them together and move them to the MLP, to the mobile launcher platform, and from there on we will do the normal launch procedure. We will fly a bit around in the orbit and then come back with the orbiter. You can also skip some parts of that, see what you're interested in. And now I'm going to show you a bit of stuff. This is the main assembly station where you can put together all the ships. You can put them here and move them together afterwards. You should know the mobile launcher platform, which is the main platform, as its name says, for launching the space shuttle. That's why there's a quite unique shape over here. We can look over there to our runway. That's what we need for landing the orbiter. It looks quite long, but actually it's quite short to get it down in one piece and in time before it suddenly stops over there at the end. I'll show a bit of that. If it gets darker, you can also put on some lights here. Which makes it look a bit nicer, but you can barely see that right now. Maybe at landing we're gonna see that when it gets dark. So this is basically just kind of a test world, or it has been just my planet test world, because the normal plan was to recreate the Kennedy Space Center, but yeah, we need some people doing the terraforming for that, because it is a lot of time. And we basically put together the Kennedy Space Center in STS 1.0 as a platform in space, but now we don't want to make it anymore, because it's very time consuming and it's just for the look. It doesn't have any other benefit. So yeah, it's some different launch pads. 1, 2 and 3, they're just for testing small rockets. You can put them here, ignite them and then just see how they fly. Got 2 other launch pads over here. Smaller number 1 and the bigger number 2. I won't show you how that's supposed to work, because it doesn't matter for the project right now. Here on the left and on the right side there are the landing points for the solid rocket boosters when they were still automatically returning to Earth. But nowadays we have parachutes, and that is why we don't use it anymore. They're just here in the world. Yeah, they're just the rest. The other ones, I guess somewhere over here. Was the one for the right booster, the one for the left booster is over here. So that was supposed to catch the SRBs when they were landing. And over here we have a platform with some ships, or in this case only the jumper, which was my test ship for jumping in between space. And it's almost the end of the tour. You're going back to launch pad number 4, which is the launch pad for the MLP. You can see over there in the distance there's the outer marker for the runway 36, which is the one here. Actually, it should say runway 33, I guess. This is where you kind of the orientation point for landing, if you want to land the orbiter. So you go through that point and land on a runway. Okay, so that's the launch pad. That's the world. As you can see, we're usually building without any mods, just our kind of our policy. So we don't want to use mods because at some points in the past, mods were not developed any further, or there were problems with them, and the game itself makes a lot of problems actually, and that's why we won't use any mods over here. Kind of happy if the game itself works good. So I'm going to show you the ships right now. We're going to start with the external tank. And it's a new version. Can leave some space up there. So the external tank is nothing really special, it's just as the name says, the tank of the whole project. In our case it has another very important function, because it has to support the orbiter with some internal thrusters, because the orbiter itself with only 3 thrusters cannot generate enough force to thrust to push up the whole space transportation system, and that's why it's actually made of a lot of tanks, but also a lot of thrusters, and we will need them definitely. So that's the interior of that. Just see that for you. This side's the side for the orbiter. You can connect it here via this connector block and the 3 landing gears. So the orbiter will get its fuel out of these tanks inside here. The orbiter itself has no fuel tanks, after all. So I'm gonna I have a lot of SRBs here. I'm gonna take that one. They can stand up in the air because they have some interior thrusters, atmospheric thrusters, that will, don't damage it, that will keep it in the air. Ah, that looks good. So you can see here, so this ship's flying on its own, actually. You can just move it around, pretty simple. Inside there are also some maneuver thrusters, I call them, some hydrogen thrusters, so you can use hydrogen to move it around a bit faster. Still a cockpit, just have it for various reasons. Usually when I test those ships, they are open on one or more sides, and so I can just get into the cockpit and move it around a bit. That's basically it. The red thruster is exactly the same, with the only difference that the timers are a bit different, and this black ring is missing, but you cannot mix them up. It's important to have the left SRB on the left side and right SRB on the right side, otherwise it might be a problem for the whole system. There are also internal thrusters over here, I can show it to you. So we got some thrusters here, and in the stage above we also have some other thrusters, internal thrusters. Because with those tubes alone, it would not generate enough lift to get moving, and that's a problem. So we always have to use internal thrusters to make this possible. It's not 100% realistic, but it's working. and that's what counts for us. And of course the main thing is the orbiter. The orbiter can also float in the air because we have a lot of atmospheric thrusters in the back. They can support all the weight from the orbiter, and that's also our kind of aerodynamics mod. So with that it can just float, kind of float on its atmospheric thrusters, and it is basically how it works for us. So when you're getting to landing, you just float on those atmospheric thrusters, and this kind of simulates the aerodynamics. You can see here our door, more or less, which has all the thrusters inside. Kind of difficult to get them all into the right place without crashing each other. So this is how it looks like in the back. Got a huge payload bay area. Unfortunately we had to remove the remote manipulator system, this Canada. We had it in version 1.0, but once it starts swinging around, it won't stop. And that's a big problem, because it will hit the walls, it would hit the ceiling and this payload bay door or the floor, and will create damage then. And the whole ship is moving and shaking, and as long as we cannot solve this problem, we cannot use the RMS, unfortunately. Because I really liked it, but it's just not practically. We're gonna look into the cockpit. So it has a landing gear, as you can see. Go inside here. So that's the lower part of the cockpit with 3 single seats. And if you go upwards here, you can look into the payload bay area. 2 other seats in the back, and of course the cockpit. There are some useful hints over here, we'll do that later, on what to do when you are in space and at launch and so on. What I can show as well is the radio altimeter, which will show us, or which will signal us our height above the ground. We're gonna put it over here, because maybe it's good to see how that works. So there are 4 sensors in the back of the aircraft, and when you come close in this area, I can show it actually. What happens? Unfortunately, it cannot detect the grass. It can only detect solid things like our station here. Take it a bit forward. Just to make sure that I don't hit anything. Okay, now you're going down. And you can hear the low warning sound, which means you're kind of close to the ground. And as soon as you get closer, you hear the high warning sound, which will tell that you're really, really close to the ground and will hit it or touch down there, hopefully firmly, in a few seconds. This goes for about 10 seconds, I think. And it will switch off as soon as you touch down, or when the 15 seconds are over. So that's maybe impossible to, it's possible, it's necessary to know to see how it works. We can also see between SRB and external tank there are only 2 merge blocks each side, which means that there are no connectors and no fuel transfer. This is important to know because they all have their own fuel tanks and their own fuel system, and as soon as the fuel is empty, the boosters will shut off, but they will separate before. Same as for the external tank. As soon as all the tanks are empty, the orbiter, which has the fuel from the external tank, will no longer produce any thrust from these engines. We're going to see that later. What we got here as well is a lot of cameras. We're going to see that in ascending. So here's camera. Here should be another one, another 2. So you can pretty much look at the whole sequence from almost every angle, which is quite nice. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, just gonna delete all those ships because we cut them into pieces and it's not very nice. We will now put it together. Just be careful. No, it still has the auto lock on. So let's get the tank over here. Okay. And the right SRB. Okay, let's start assembling the ships. First of all, make sure you have the ownership for all the ships. I have, because I built them and I didn't reset the ownership in the menu, but I actually put the ownership of every ship to me and share with all. So everybody should be able to control them. It's mainly because of the remote control function. And if not, just reset the ownership and own it to your character. So first we're gonna do, make sure the external tank sits tight there. We can then remote the left SRB, and you can use camera number 3. It says camera left SRB, external tank, connector above. This means this camera has to view the external tank, and the connector block, in this case the merge block, is above your camera. So that means you have to aim for the block below this merge block. Just do it very slow and nice. As soon as they are in range, they both switch on, they will connect automatically. It's actually pretty easy. Just don't be too fast, don't crash into it. You can see it already moves in the right direction here. So now it's yellow, it's very close, and that's it. So left SRB is connected, same for the right. Aim for the block below, don't be too fast, but you don't need to hesitate a lot. Actually, there shouldn't be any damages. Okay, that's it. This is all to connect the SRBs and the external tank. Now we could already connect the orbiter right now, Well, what I would suggest, it is possible to move the whole system with heavy lift bobby, but it's kind of difficult. So it's way easier to move the tank and two boosters to the platform and put the orbiter on there. To do that we need a bit more thrust, and that's why we need some fuel out of the tanks. So what you should do is you use the O2H2 generator, and there's a connector block here. Oh, sorry, conveyor block. Another one's here. Oops. And the third one over here. So now, even if we use the hydrogen from these three rockets, they will refuel automatically. So those Atmo maneuver thrusters are on by default. We check for the maneuver thrusters of the external tank. The ET thrusters, check for thrust override disabled before put it on, or it will go up like a rocket. The hydro maneuver thrusters of the SRBs. The left boosters, override disable and on. And the right boosters, override disable on. Those boosters and the ET thrusters are the thrusters on the bottom that are pointing downwards. So they are on a thrust override, because as soon as they get activated by the timers, I'll show it later on, they're giving everything they have. And that's what we need. So we don't have to steer them manually, they'll just go on by themselves and put you up. So now I also have remote access for the launch pad, and we can check this off and unlock it. So this is a good point to save your progress right now, and you need to save it a lot, because it can go wrong at some points. You will see that probably. Okay, and now we can control and steer the external tank. Very easy. And I always kind of hate this, parking those rockets, because it's really annoying. A lot of things can go wrong, and sometimes need 2 or 3 attempts for it. But let's see how it works. But it's not that easy, and it takes some time. What we aim for actually is this landing gear that has to be somewhere here or here. So it's better to have it here because you have more space for the orbiter then. So try to get this edge in the middle of that landing gear, and then it's symmetrically, and it's working fine then. So let's see how I can get it there. I don't know, I cannot control it here. Gotta be careful when you go down, because gravity will pull you down a lot. Just gonna save in between a bit. Let's see how the orientation is. You always have to move a bit around to see. If you're close enough. Oof, that was fast. Just gonna check out. It's actually looking quite good. So this should be okay. Oh, that's looking fine. And that's it, you can see it's yellow. So you can control the MLP. So that's just for unlocking. And lock the landing gear. And that's it. So that's how the tanks and the SRBs are connected. Now it's very important to switch off again all the hydrogen thrusters and reset them. Hydrogen thrusters are off. And ET maneuver thrusters. So the Atmo thruster is still on. The ET maneuvers off. The ET thrusters off but set to max. Hydro is off. Left boosters on max but off, and right boosters on max but off. What we can also do is you can check for the tanks to be full. They are full. I don't know which one is for what, but if you go here through random, they're all filled 100%. So you can remove those tanks. Nevertheless, we will check the tanks before we lift off. Ouch. Just to see if you didn't forget anything. Okay, so this already worked, very nice. So next step is the orbiter. That's gonna take a while here. Time save. Okay, so we're gonna put the orbiter here. I think you already see what it is supposed to be. It is interesting construction. Okay, interesting thing, when the atmospheric thrusters are on, this will move up very fast, although I didn't press reverse. So that's just because, I don't know, the atmospheric thrusters are pushing it up or something. I don't really know why. Okay, so now it's in its upright position. And now very important for handling the orbiter is to switch all thrusters off, but don't cut off the electricity. So we're gonna put that off. the admiral maneuver thrusters. All other thrusters should be actually off by default. Yeah, also the iron thrusters. Exactly. Because now I also tried to put in some more thrusters inside and a hydrogen tank and fly it towards the MLP by itself, but it may be easier to just use the heavy lift over here. I can actually put off those lights. So the heavy lift has really a lot of power, because it's been designed to move the whole STS, and that is possible. But just can go wrong a lot. So that's why I now use this technique. What we're gonna do is we grab the nose of the orbiter with the most forward landing gears and the supporters on that. There are some cameras. Exactly that one's what I'm looking for. So this block is the nose, and I'm just gonna go down a bit. Just nice and gently. There are coming some sparks, I don't know why, but don't worry, nothing will happen here. Launchpad 4 landing gear orbiter will be unlocked. Don't worry, it just... I don't know why these sparks are coming up. There's nothing that's gonna be damaged. You can see there's a lot of power left, so you can just easily pull those 200 tons up. It's no problem. Okay, let me say one thing. A very good point to say right now. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing at the ET. There is one connector, the one in the... on its belly, which is called connector ET to orbiter. You can put it on, but you have to put the strength to the smallest value you can have. And I should put it off maybe. For the moment, yeah. And also for the orbiter, also make sure that you have the ownership so you can access it. It's now very important. Also the connector here. Although the connector, the strength of the connector is always the one that counts as the one from the lower value, but nevertheless we go better safe than sorry and put them both to the minimum value, and now you can see why this is so difficult. There's not much space. Let's just save one at a time. Wait. Something's not right here. Looks like tanks are tilted a bit. yeah, they're not completely straight upright. Okay, now it's not okay. That's not okay. You can see the very narrow space between all those things I can show to you. So this is not even a block of space between this. You can see here how close that is, and you can see how close it is here. It's just very shallow, very narrow. Okay, last saving attempt. Let's do it. And now I will show you why it is so important to have it all remoted. So first we're gonna put on the external tank connector to orbiter on, check for 0.1%. And next thing is orbiter. Connect the orbiter to external tank. And camera. So this is the same as the camera orbiter to external tank. Connector is above, which means this connector and your own connector is just above you. So if you have this position, it's quite good. And you have to be very careful now, because there can be a lot of damage by this. So just be very careful by putting this together. Oh, bounce back. Just oh, that doesn't look good. Okay, we are pitched a bit. Got a small pitch in here. Oh, come on. Why is it not working right now? Oh, I think we damaged something. No, landing gears are good. Those landing gears are good as well. Most of the times it's those landing gears that are getting some damage. Oh. That sounded good and bad. So it should just try to connect it right now. Okay, as I said, the strength is defined by the one of the lower strength. So just go like this and increase it a bit. And basically I cannot go 100%. So let's see if we had some damage. Nope. No, it all went good. Very nice. So the ships are connected. Let's just check it one more time. Oops. Connector T2 orbiter. They're locked. And you can also see it has the external tank as its reference, and you have all the groups right now. So we're looking for the group over the connection, and we lock it. And now we're double locked via this landing gear and the 2 landing gears over here and the connector. So we can now simply put away the Bowie tripod. Alright. So it looks like this is the configuration you have when you just download the world and start playing, but it's not. There are a few very small things that you really have to consider. And first, check that we removed all the H2O2 generators. They are all away here. That's good. And now we're going to go for the thrusters. Oh, so for the timers, which are connected to the thrusters actually. First, what you can do, you can check if you have in your groups here ET thrusters decrease and increase the override. That's done automatically. Nevertheless, check it. Now this is one of the most important things. There are a lot of timers for the launch sequence, landing sequence, all this stuff, and every ship has its own launch sequence. So the orbiter has one, the boosters each have one, and the external tank has an own launch sequence. So the timer that you launch manually is the timer STS launch, which is a 14-second countdown. So at T-6 actually, so it's from that point, if you start that, you have 20 seconds to lift off. So after 14 seconds you're at T-6, which is the point where the space shuttle main engines are gonna ignite and power up. This is what also is done here. Nevertheless, the control is given away by the orbiter's timers to each single ship. So, what you have to do here, this is for the orbiter, and then you look for the timer, let's see, left SLB1, which has to be started, the timer block right SLB1, that has to be started, so left SLB, right SLB, and let's see, where's the next one? I'm gonna find it. It's not ET disconnect, it's actually the timers. Let's see where it is. Oh, ET start. There it is. There it is. You start that one. So that's the first one. Second one is for the separation. You make sure that the external tank and the orbiter will separate nice. So look, okay, that is done. This is the orbiter connection, and this is the timer block for the orbiter separation. Just check if they're okay. This works. And the second one is the emergency shutdown from the orbiter side. See if there's another one. No, it's not. That has to make sure that the other types are stopping. So just stop that one. Stop that one. Where's the one? Ah, it's over here. Okay, I found it. So this is just to make sure that in case you want to stop the countdown before liftoff, you can do it here. But actually, you can just do it before liftoff, because once you lift it off, there's no plan B for the orbiter. So all you can do is just disconnect it and hope for a soft landing. But when you're low and slow, there's no plan B for the orbiter, so it has to get past that point for a safe separation actually. That's what it is in real life, and that's what it is in Space Engineers. We didn't change anything for that. But normally nothing bad happens actually. So what we're going to do now is do our checks. This is also one of the most important things. You can go inside here and read this checklist. So before launch, look for the STS launch timer and check that the timer left SRB1, right SRB1, and ET starts, they are set to start. We did this. At the separation timer, the orbiter connection is set to unlock. That is. The emergency shutdown, those timers set to stop. All maneuver thrusters should be off. Left booster, right booster, ET thrusters are off and override is at max. The SSMEs are off and override is disabled. That's a special reason. This is because they will go on and then slowly get their override increased. That makes it look like it would really power up those engines like it is in reality. If you watch the space shuttle launch, you will see exactly that. And the shortcuts in group 1. Number 2, decrease, and number 3, increase of the override. We did all that. Just let me check if the SSMEs are right set up. They are, and those maneuver thrusters, they are all off. What we can do now, we can check the tanks. They're all looking really good. Okay, and that's basically how you will find the world when you just load it from the Steam Workshop. It's a good time to save right now. And now I'm gonna put a special payload inside, but I won't tell you what it is. You will see later on. Just let me do it. Okay, we're closing the payload bay doors. Also very exciting for me because it's the first time with an actual payload on board of the orbiter. Let's gonna see how that works. So we're actually ready to go. Just gonna save one more time. Now we're gonna go through the launch checklist, or the climb checklist. So 123 seconds after this liftoff, the SRBs will disconnect automatically. The ET thrust has to be at 400 kilonewtons then, and at 0.5 G we're going to set it to 200, at 0.3 to 100, at 0.2 to 0, and at 0.1 G we can disconnect the external tank. The launch itself is quite easy. All we have to do is push the first shortcut, and afterwards, so sit down in the cockpit and we're gonna push that one. Afterwards, we go to Remote Access, MLP, Control. We're then in control of the MLP, and we can push shortcut number 4 to get into this camera view. And when I now press shortcut number 5, it will disconnect the left SRB from the MLP, which will effectively free the whole system. That has to be done as soon as the SRBs are igniting. The rest is going by itself very easy, and we will now do our best. So, STS version 2.2 is ready to go. Activating the countdown. We have 20 seconds. Remote access. MLP. Control. You can hear the beep sound of the timers. Go to this camera view. We may see the main engines of the orbiter igniting now. 6 seconds. And release. And as you can see, we're slowly ascending and gaining speed. Beautiful into the sunset. So the first few seconds you're just more like passenger than anything else. Actually, you do the roll program right now. Well, we will do a small roll program because we're trying to get a bit aligned with the runway. So I'm just gonna roll a bit to the left until, yeah, we are a bit aligned. That should be it. Try to maintain a high pitch. If your pitch is too low, so you're kind of moving here too much, you will see very fast that this will not work and you will fall down very fast again. So a bit out of the nose is okay, but not too much. Okay, let's see how it works. 0.88 G. Let's see the timers. This is the trigger for the separation of the boosters. Now 28 seconds until the boosters are popping off. And the other two timers are just for a clean and smooth separation. That's it. So the boosters are now descending downwards, and they have some parachutes inside, so they will just land very smoothly. We're now 0.5 G, so we can reduce the thrust. So 200. These are the internal thrusters of the external tank. You know, our maximum speed is 100 meters per second anyway, so we can reduce the thrust if you don't need it. We won't get any faster, and this will save a lot of fuel later on. More in this direction. Okay, 0.3 G, reducing thrust to 100. You can actually see here how our flight vector is going a lot upwards. Actually a bit more than I want it to be. What we can now also do is we can turn a bit around. In reality, we would now go into a good position to get into orbit, which means that we will follow a bit the curvature of the Earth, and we would roll back, because now the communication would be done by antennas. Oh no, I don't know from antennas, but from GPS communication satellites. Okay, I missed 2.2 G, so we now disable the thrust of the external tank, internal thrusters. Nice. Looks pretty nice. We also have to roll like this, because when we drop the tank, it will fall down, of course, and it may hit us if we are too close to it or in that position. Okay, point 2G, what's now important is to activate the orbiter's thrusters. Also, put them on maybe. That's over here. Okay, 0.1 G, so goodbye external tank. Oh, I gotta move up, move up. Oh. Okay, and we now slowly drop down to the atmosphere. So what we can do now as well is putting on all the maneuver thrusters, and we can now, only with the maneuver thrusters, the ion thrusters, we can go out into space. The orbiter's height above ground is at about 40 kilometers height, so we're almost there. Don't ask me why there are already some stones over here. Gotta be really careful not hitting them. Actually, we can now float into the atmosphere. So I switched off all thrusters and we're just getting very free, floating into the orbit. Maybe around 42,000. Okay, that's it. So, time to assess any damage. Maybe we're gonna put on my helmet here. Actually looks quite good. We didn't get any damage from the external tank, so that is good. Very nice. So now it's time to show you my special payload. Which is a small satellite. Ah, come on, let's get on some light. These are the cockpit lights over here. And these are the payload bay lights. So this small satellite can some solar panels and can produce energy. It has some thrusters and can move around. We're now gonna release it. Let's see. Is that one? Yeah. And with the remote control. You can just move it out. The payload bay area. Okay, so it's a small observation satellite. Oh, we can see some very nice ore here. We're gonna drill a bit, but I don't think that the orbiter is made for that. So that's how we placed our small satellite. It was really the first time that I put a payload inside here. So that's quite interesting. Oh, okay. Nevertheless, that was the mission, and now we have to return to Earth. We're gonna wait for the doors to be closed, and then we're gonna make our way back. The approach is actually very easy. The tricky thing is the landing, but you will see that later on. So it's a good point to save right now. Okay, so I would say gonna put our forward thrusters to max thrust. And go back home. So first of all, just aim straight forward to the planet's surface until you're catching gravity. That's gonna take a while. You can still see our small satellite, yeah, over there. Maybe our small satellite can still see us. Yeah. Very nice. See the orbiter going back to Earth. Okay, we are back in gravity. Already put on the maneuver thrusters, the atmospheric maneuver thrusters. So up in this altitude, the atmospheric thrusters will not have any effect. That's just coming at around 6,000 meters altitude. So what we will do now is we will aim for the outer marker a bit, and we then try to get a kind of a forward speed towards I just can do like that towards the runway. Okay, now did them all. Yeah, I always have to be careful not to mix up the atmospheric, the forward thrusters and the maneuver thrusters. But now our thrusters are on. So the trick is to you don't just go in this direction and then pull up. It will not be enough space for the speed to drop. You have to remember that Space Engineers limits your maximum forward speed to 100 meters per second, or in this case 104, because we are falling free. So as long as you maintain kind of a forward speed, your total velocity can still not be greater than 100 meters per second. So the faster you fly forward, the lower will be your vertical speed downwards. So if I go now like this will make my forward speed over ground just a bit, but I won't be falling with 100 meters per second anymore. And that's the whole trick for landing, because otherwise you would just crash into the ground. Very important is just the sequence that you put the different modules on. So, good idea to put on the radio altimeter. Good idea to put on the landing gear quite early and keep it switched on, because when you touch down they could move a bit because of the impact. Then it's good to have them on to move you back in the right position. As soon as you hear the low sound, the low warning sound, you can switch off the landing thrusters. These are just a few downward pointing thrusters. When you switch them off, the object cannot support its own weight anymore in atmosphere and will slowly, but really slowly descend. When you then touch down, you can switch off the ground thrusters. These are even more downward pointing thrusters to have some good weight on the wheels. You can open the parachute hatch. That will break it down or slow it down. And then the braking thrusters are to maintain your position, because these are the only thrusters looking forward. If you don't put them on, you just continue rolling, because the parachute cannot brake you down to stop. So this sequence is very important, and just need to know that. So right now we can also already put on the radio altimeter. See that the right SLB has landed somewhere over there. Okay, you can already see how the iron thrusters are getting less effective as we're getting to atmosphere. The orbiter rumble a bit around, because we're getting to the altitude where the atmospheric thrusters are getting more effective. Good time to lower the landing gear. And also a good point to switch off your iron thrusters. So now we're just floating on our atmospheric thrusters here. We're a bit higher, try to correct this. just open the parachute. And basically that's it. I played around a bit with the ground thrusters to have enough lift or not, or enough weight on the wheels. Because if you don't put them off, you will pitch up a lot when the parachute comes out. But actually, that was kind of a nice landing. You can also switch off that one right now completely, and I'd say welcome back to Earth. So we can go out here. And you see, it works. It's a bit bumpy, kind of bumpy ride, but that's how it is in real too, I guess. But we made it. We really made it. So I hope it was fun for you. It was for me. Just want to show you that it works, how it works, and I hope if you have questions, then just write it in the comments. Please rate the video as well. And stay tuned for the next projects that we have. So thanks a lot, and see you next time. Hey again, and welcome to a special. This is the original world from the workshop, and what we're going to do now is we will see how a booster lands. Unfortunately, I don't have one. Just need a passenger seat here, of course. What else? To see it from the best perspective. So we're gonna sit down and relax a bit. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. So let's go. Oh, okay. Okay, 10 seconds to separation. Let's see, we're in 10,000 meters altitude, which is still a lot of hydrogen left actually. I thought it would be less, but no. That's the separation. We can see how nice they're doing it at the same time. Oh yeah, 17% left. And the orbiter is gone straight to orbit, and we will actually go up a bit more. Up to a certain point, and now we will fall down. Okay, so landing system of the SRB consists of the atmospheric thrusters and the parachutes. They will activate at the same time at around 5,000 meters. Of course, at this altitude or this height, they are not very effective. I should deploy right now. Exactly. And you can see how small they are actually. It's 3 parachutes, just like in reality. and the atmospheric thrusters, and right now they're not having any effect. If I just put the parachutes, it would really move and go from left to right just like that. It will swing a lot, but it won't stop swinging. And the parachutes will just move it down to, I don't know, like 20 meters per second. And when the SOPs hit the ground with that speed, they will get damaged really hard. So I need to have the atmospheric thrusters activated as well to break it down to 0 speed. Or not exactly 0 speed, it's a bit less, because I don't have all atmospheric thrusters activated. And so it will just smoothly go down and then stop in midair. And that's it, and you can use them again and just fill them up and they're ready to go again. So let's see in which altitude we're stopping. Okay, I think this is kind of enough. So you see, at some point they will just stop moving or contact the ground at a very low speed, and that's it. And you can just fill them up with the H2O2 generator or via the connector here and use them again. Just put on the merge blocks again and you can use them as much as I want. Oh, I can just see. There we fell below a certain speed. And now it may slowly come down. Okay, welcome to the second special. It's called How Your External Tank is Landing. You will see it right now because as soon as it's out of fuel, there's no possibility to fly anymore. And so basically this is how it lands.